Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into a Week 18 edition of SIN Sunday Sideline Report. I'm Mike Rifkin, and we have a star-studded cast because we went all out for Week 18. It's almost like it's the Oscars, but it's not really the Oscars. But joining me, Mark Oldops, Guy Halpern, Danny Boy Reginald, Dan Ryan's, President Lawrence Patchman Lang, Noah Tremblay. Gentlemen, welcome to the end.
It's amazing that we're already here.
18 weeks, and it's been a fun 18 weeks. We've had solid shows, and we're going to be even having more exciting shows going into next year. But Noah, Patchy, Dan, thank you for putting me and this big guy together, me and Mike, to do the Sunday Report.
Anytime, guys. And also,
it's been a pleasure doing it this year.
Yeah. And just a side quick note, this is the entire board here for the show.
Yeah.
So you don't set the board, we are the board.
Yeah. Well, hey, you two guys are, when we started Blitzers, I made you guys the editors-in-chief, so you're part of the board. Noah does social media. Danny Boy is the VP, and then you have me, El Presidente.
So any issues you may or may not have with the network directed totally at Patchy. That's right. All that's going to be said.
It might take me a week to get back to you because of work life, but if not, direct it to Danny Boy.
Yeah. And if it's, we're not going to go there. So we're going to go to Week 18. We're going to do all the NFC games. The AFC games were previewed on Thursday Night Gridiron. But just in case, at the end, I will go over all the clinching scenarios for you. But for the NFC, there's really two spots open before we dive in. That's a wild card spot in the NFC West. So for the wild card, you have the Saints who can get in with a win over the Atlanta Falcons and the 49ers lost to the Rams. The 49ers get in with a win or a Saints loss. So either way they get in, the Saints need both to happen. For the NFC West title, the Rams have to beat the 49ers or Cardinals lost to the Seahawks to win the division. The Cardinals need to win and a Rams loss to win the NFC West. So those are your clinching scenarios in the NFC. We'll go over the AFC later. Just a couple of quick notes that came out this morning, and then we could dive in. Kevin Colbert, general manager of the Steelers, likely to step down after the draft. According to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, the Texans are targeting March 16th, which is right before the league year, to trade Deshaun Watson. And the Browns intend to keep Baker Mayfield, which is a conversation we could have another day. And I'm sure we will talk about that on the Wishbone Shotgun podcast. But we're going to dive in. And how do you not start with the weirdest / craziest /
most embarrassing?
I mean, listen, if you don't know what happened and you've lived under a rock, Antonio Brown was released by the Bucs. And this is a whole conversation that could happen. This could take up a lot of time, but
we got time.
Week during the Bucs-Jets game, Antonio Brown was seen taking off his jersey, shoulder pads, undershirt. He threw his undershirt into the crowd, and he ran across the field shirtless. Did a hey, look at me in the end zone, and ran up the tunnel. There's a video of an Uber driver who picked him up. There's a whole thing about that.
So crazy.
Antonio Brown said he hurt his ankle, and that's why he didn't want to go back in. Bruce Arians said no, he was complaining about targets and this and that, and he was having a hissy fit. Either way, since then, Antonio Brown's agents put out a statement saying Brown needs ankle surgery. Antonio Brown also went on a podcast on Thursday ripping everyone from Bruce Arians to Tom Brady to Rob Gronkowski. But the major story is Antonio Brown is no longer a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dan, you're the Jets fan here, so I'm sure you were locked in on the game.
Yep.
Your reaction to what you saw last week from Antonio Brown?
I mean, initially, just like everyone else, I'm thinking, well, what is he doing? Is he quitting on football? Is he just acting like an idiot? Is he letting his team down? So many other different things are going on. But then as the week just transpired, like it just became more confusing. And, when more information came out after the game, I went from ripping apart Antonio Brown to, being very concerned for him and and once again, ripping apart the NFL for not doing its job in ensuring that they are caring for these players when it comes to any type of mental health or any type of issues with the brain, because clearly that sight that we saw from Antonio Brown, all that whole scene is not okay. It's not okay. First of all, no excuse for Antonio Brown. But at the same time, what is the NFL doing about it? Has anyone from the NFL reached out to him? I know it's not part of their current business model, but has anyone from the NFL reached out to him? Has anyone from the Tampa Bay Bucks reached out to him? I know Tom Brady said we love him. We want to ensure it's okay. But are they actually doing something about it for him? Are they helping him?
Sorry to cut you off. The Bucks held on to him till Thursday.
Yeah, I know
because they were trying to get him some help.
Right.
They were looking into getting him some help before they actually released him. So at least that's what they've put out there.
That's what they're saying. But
yeah,
we won't know because teams can say anything they want. Ultimately, I just think that it's not a good sign for the NFL seeing players do that. One. And two, it's also not good for Antonio Brown because it doesn't help his reputation. And I feel bad for him because, even though a lot of it was, his doing, it also stinks that, no one's really showing him the love and care that they claim to show him. And it's just, it's a sad story in the NFL right now. It really is.
Mark?
From all the drama we saw from when he went to Oakland and then had issues with John Gruden there, makes you kind of wonder how many of the stories are true from Antonio Brown's side going against with John Gruden. And then he goes to Brady Land and proves that he can't handle anything. He is unfortunately in need of real help. I really hope he gets it. I don't want to see another Richard Sherman go incident, even though Antonio Brown's already had 4 of those incidents. Let's get the guy some help. Let's look out for his better interests before, God forbid, somebody really gets hurt. Patchy.
Wait, you threw it to me?
Yeah,
Sorry, spaced out for a second. You froze on me a little bit. Let's all hope Antonio Brown gets help because, you know what, he's a character, we'll say, in the NFL. He's a very colorful character. And sometimes you need that in the NFL because we always say the NFL is no fun league anymore for some reason, even though it's the hardest league to play in, minus Major League Baseball. It's hard to be an NFL player. So it could be a he said, they said, you said situation for him, but he needs help. And let's hope he gets it because the last thing we want to happen for him is the inedible and he does something really stupid and then everyone is hurt by it. So let's hope that whether it's the NFL, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, maybe a former team like the Steelers, just get him help. The man needs help. And there's definitely something up There's definitely something wrong up in his noggin that needs to be addressed, and someone needs to step up to the plate and get him help.
No.
Yeah. I said this on Wishbone, but the more that we've seen come out about it, it's clear that this guy just needs help. I mean, when he first threw the tantrum and left the field, my first thought was just, oh great, it's Antonio Brown. Being Antonio Brown, it's nothing. He's just throwing a temper tantrum. That's what he does. But like Dan said, the more the week has gone on and the more stuff has come out and the more stuff has happened regarding this, you look at him and you go, dude, you need you need legit psych help. Because what are you talking about? Like, that statement from his agent made no sense. Just spewing all these claims that Tampa Bay did this, Brady did that, Gronk did this. It's like, what are you talking about? What? And then he's doing this Uber, like he's, that Uber thing is happening and he's at the Nets game the next night.
He dropped a rap song.
Yeah, he's just doing all this crazy stuff in the span of a week. It's like, man, this guy really does need some professional help. And, he needs, at the end of the day, he's going to have to do it. The team and the NFL should reach out and try to get him, but at the end of the day, he's going to have to do it himself.
Right.
And if he doesn't want to, then that's the last we've seen of Antonio Brown, because I think at this point, unless he gets real help, he's damaged. Not damaged. I don't want to say it like that, but he's untouchable at this point. No team's going to take a shot on him. I don't think any team's desperate enough to get that headache on their team.
Yeah.
His NFL career, unless he gets the help, is over. I agree with you. I wrote about this for the network. You can check it out, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. My thing is this. We knew his off-the-field issues. We've all known, we've all heard, seen. This was the first time it slipped into football during a game where he showed, we all knew it was all about him, but another story. But the problem is this, and this is where the league needs to step in, and this is where the league has problems. We all know about we don't know everything, but we know about concussions. We know about CTE, and we know the damage it could have. Antonio Brown hasn't been the same guy since he got hit by Vontaze Burfict. Hasn't. That's being straight up honest with you.
And what the crazy part is, Mike, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you look at him, he never pulled any of this stuff for the 5 years while he was in the league before that. Mm-hmm. And then the second that hit happens, it's it's all downhill from there.
But think about this. Think about the two thing of two, because the Raiders are the Raiders and they have their own issues. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't get rid of people on accident. You have to do something to get out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay, where Tom Brady vouched for you. Tom Brady wanted you. He said, hey, go get him. We can use him. And you're gonna go on a podcast and say Tom Brady didn't do anything for you? Tom Brady revitalized your career, dude. You shouldn't have been in the Super Bowl last year. But you were because of Tom Brady. Don't talk to me on the podcast he hit that he was on. He goes, I want guaranteed money. Why didn't I get guaranteed money? And Gronk got guaranteed. Because Gronk doesn't do stupid stuff like this. Rob Gronkowski's never done something like this. Chris Godwin doesn't do stuff like this. Mike Evans doesn't do stuff like this.
Gronk does other stupid stuff, but we don't get into that.
Right, yeah.
He just parties too much.
Like those commercials. But you've sealed your own fate. You are not going. If there is a team out there who signs him for the playoffs or next year, there will be a backlash to this. There will be.
I wouldn't necessarily say a little back. The team signs him. It's the man's going to seek help. They're going to get him help. That has to be with that. I wouldn't say backlash, but if they can get.
If he has the help, then no. But if you're just signing him to sign him, there's backlash.
Yeah, I agree with that. But sign him, get him help. I would say that would be the first priority.
And if a team doesn't sign him, it is on Roger Goodell and the NFL to get him help.
Oh, Mike, do you mind if I cut in for a second? I know we're talking Antonio Brown, but we got some breaking news.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Broncos have fired head coach Vic Fangio.
Okay.
The first coach is fired.
So let's dive into this really quickly because we'll go full circle with it then. Because the Broncos lost yesterday to the Chiefs.
Yes.
They're now 7. They finished the season 7-10. There's two parts of this, and then I'll throw it to someone. I'm not surprised by this. I think this was one of the easier ones. But I think this is the beginning of something big in Denver because Vic Fangio said something yesterday during his post-game press conference that really stuck to me.
What's that?
He said, if you look at the other 3 teams in the division, he goes, they have top shelf quarterbacks, that being Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and Mahomes, who I don't know. He's pretty good, I guess. And Vic Fangio's had to go along with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. And, I think Denver's going to go big game hunting this offseason at quarterback, whether that's Patchy, close your ears, Aaron Rodgers, whether that's Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson possibly, or someone else. I think they're going to go big game hunting with a head coach now too.
Yeah.
It just makes too much sense.
Well, because not only that, Mike, that's Elway's style. He doesn't like the drafting and stuff. He wants the big
Elway's
game.
no longer the GM.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Forgot about that.
It's George Patton who did not hire Fangio, so that also is a reason why this makes sense.
But if you're Broncos, you should go big game hunting for the quarterback position. I mean, look at the talent you're gonna have around the guy. Like, imagine Aaron Rodgers with Judy, Sutton, Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams, Noah Fant, possibly Melvin Gordon if they can keep him around. But like the talent that a quarterback's going to have around him in Denver is unreal. Like either of those 3, Watson, Wilson, or Rodgers, I think would gladly go to Denver because of the offensive weapons that he would have around him.
Mind you, now that Carolina Panthers are dangling him, Daddy Ed McCaffrey might try to swing Christian McCaffrey to Denver. It's a definite possibility.
Could they afford that?
Yeah, they can with a little creative work.
It'll cost you.
I wonder though if how good Javonte Williams has played. I wonder if that sways their mind of like maybe we don't need to swing for McCaffrey because Javonte Williams has played great this year.
Well, he's had a good year. I absolutely agree with you, but the way it's almost like Carolina's making goo-goo rides at Denver. That's where they want to make their trade partner with.
Right.
But this is the first domino to fall. We'll see more go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy, likely. Mike
Nagy,
Zimmer.
yes.
Zimmer's an interesting one. I mean, do you stick with mediocrity in Minnesota or do you go for something different?
You got to go different.
You got to go different. You
got to go different. We'll talk about this later. I think Minnesota is one of the major disappointments in the league, to be honest with you. But I listen, if you're a Broncos fan, I say giddy up, man, because this could be a big time off season. And listen, I don't want to put words or throw this out there, but man, I could hit 2 daggers. I can go get Eric Bieniemy as my head coach, and I can get Russell Wilson or someone as my quarterback. All of a sudden, maybe that shot at the Chiefs isn't so difficult. But That's the first domino to go, but that we'll see more. We'll see more. But Fangio out in Denver after the Broncos finished 7-10, last place in the AFC West. Okay, so this isn't really news, but it is something I wanted to have a brief conversation on. Because Hub Arkush, who is a MVP voter and he works in Chicago, made a statement this week saying he will not vote for Aaron Rodgers as the MVP of the NFL, which, if you have a valid reason, I'm okay with that. But don't tell me it's because he's a bad guy and a jerk is the reason you don't vote for him. That's like saying, I hate Noah so much, I will never write him in to be president of the United States. Which wouldn't happen anyway, but you know that.
I was gonna say, what are we talking? What, Mike?
Don't worry about it. So, I wrote about. I don't know if I wrote about for the network or the other thing I used to write for. Voting is a privilege. When you get to vote for the Hall of Fame award, it is a privilege because idiots like us can debate. Who's the MVP? Who's not the MVP? Who's the coach of the year? We'll talk all about it later. But for a guy who actually votes on the award to say, I'm not voting for that guy because that guy's a jerk and I don't like him, it's too elementary school. And
that's a good way to put it.
It's I don't care if it's in terms of his vaccine status. I don't care if it's in terms of how you feel about him owning the Bears, as Aaron Rodgers put it.
I was going to say that.
Sorry, Patch.
All good.
Aaron Rodgers is in the conversation to be the MVP. He'll probably win it because quarterbacks always win the MVP award. I'll digress on that, but just look at the Chiefs game. That'll show the value of Aaron Rodgers. They put up 3 points in a game he doesn't play in. All right. Does anyone else want to go off on this subject?
I just find it funny that that a writer's just saying, "Oh, I'm not voting for him because I don't like him." That's okay. Many people don't like Aaron Rodgers, Bears fans especially.
Yeah,
It's weird. Like it's not. It was like me saying I'm not going to vote for Tom Brady because I don't like Tom Brady. It's like, no, I would vote for Tom Brady for MVP because Tom Brady is an MVP candidate.
Yeah, it's about recognizing your acumen and your ability on the field. And, you know, trust me, I think Mark and I could agree. Aaron Rodgers has burned the Cowboys more than once. But that's how good he is. That, you know, Mark, I don't know if you, but like every time the Cowboys have to face the Packers, I'm dreading it.
Any time Dallas is faced up against Green Bay during the Aaron Rodgers era, it doesn't matter. Aaron Rodgers is gonna get to you one way or another, and that's coming, as Noah and I both said, coming from two diehard Cowboy fans. However, Noah, we can relish on something. We kicked the ass out of Brett Favre.
They did. They did. And but yeah, with Aaron Rodgers, is just the guy is unreal. I think as far as
pretty real. I see him every week.
You know.
Now he's probably the best quarterback in football. You know.
Yeah. And you know, I wouldn't agree that he's the MVP this year. I think it goes to a certain running back in Indy.
Yes.
But
we can talk about that later.
But
we will talk about that later.
Right. But is he in the conversation? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So when you guys leave Aaron Rodgers too much time to burn you, do you guys do the Key and Peele and go, "You done messed up, Aaron"?
Well, It's so funny because how much time is too much time? Because apparently you literally have to just run the clock out to zero because San Fran left him 32 seconds,
32, 33,
and he's still won. It's like
you have to run the clock out. The guy can kill you with a 1 second on the clock.
Gotta figure out ways to bury him before he even has a chance at a fresh set of downs with time left.
Yeah.
Not that I condone this, but Minnesota kind of figured it out a few years ago. Fall on him and break his clavicle. That kind of stops him.
We do not advocate intentionally hurting people.
No, we don't. But I'm just saying that stopped them.
Well, don't forget, first week a couple years ago.
This is a live stream, not a recording, so I'm not going to say that. All right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. You know, if you are not going to vote for Aaron Rodgers, keep your reason to yourself. Don't make it public. It's stupid. And, you know, who cares? No one cares why. Just don't say it, because then it's not going to make anyone look good. Not going to make you look good. So that was a terrible thing for that reporter to give out his reasons.
So that's that. Let's get into yesterday. We kind of covered Chiefs Broncos a little bit. Chiefs win 20-24. Mahomes had 269 and 2 touchdowns. Drew Lock on the other side had 2 rushing touchdowns. Play of the game, Melvin Ingram, Nick Bolton, forcing a Melvin Gordon fumble. Nick Bolton returns at 86 yards for a touchdown to put the Chiefs in front. They never looked back. So the Chiefs cannot clinch lower than the 2 seed in the AFC. We'll go through the AFC playoff clinching scenarios at the end. Let's go to the second game, and because Mark is really excited, he was talking it up so much earlier, and it was the Dallas Cowboys defeated the Philadelphia Eagles by a score of 51-26. The Cowboys will end the regular season 12-5. The Eagles 9-8 will be in the playoffs next week as a 6 or a 7, I believe. Dak 295, 5 touchdowns. Zeke 87 yards. Cedric the Entertainer Wilson 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Eagles did not play most of their starters. Gardner Minshew had 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And if Gainwell had 78 yards and a touchdown. All I'm going to say is this, because I do want to get to Philly in a minute, because they are in the playoffs. Dak should have been pulled after halftime because he showed he was ready to go.
Yes.
But he did break the Cowboys single-season touchdown record held by Tony Romo, who I am assuming called Jerry Jones after the game and said, "Why would you let Mike McCarthy do that to me and my legacy, man?"
Tony.
I just want to chime in real quick. You know,
Go for it.
This game, every game this year has proved that the Cowboys will live and die by one thing in the playoffs. Can they run the ball? They can run the ball. They can beat anybody. I fully believe that. But that's their kryptonite. If you stop the run game, Cowboys fall apart.
And Noah's right. You know, and Dan and I have touched on this a lot, that we were saying who was the person who was carrying the team? Is it Zeke who has to be the guy, or is it Dak who has to be the guy? And Dan and I had gone back and forth on this early on in the season. And last night we saw flashes from Zeke that we haven't seen for a while. And that gave me a little bit of encouraging. 87 yards is what he needed. And I think, he didn't get into the end zone, which hurts. But this Cowboys team is ready.
Mark, I want to ask you this.
Go ahead.
Because they can't get to 1, but they can be as high as 2 and as low as 4. Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah. The lowest they can be is 4, and that means they would most likely face Arizona at home. However, if things go their way and Tampa loses and Rams lose and all that, they can vault themselves to number 2 and face Philadelphia again at home, which to me, I don't know about Noah. I kind of like better than facing Arizona.
Well, basically at this point is I think the best situations are happening for Dallas because you either face Philly again or you face Arizona again, who, yeah, you lost Arizona the first time, but at least you have something to look back on and learn from. I can tell you what, Mark, the team I don't want to face is the Niners because that team's just hot right now.
They're a scary football team, and they can come at you from so many different ways.
Right. I would much rather face Arizona and Philly rather than them. So
Okay.
I think you get that situation here.
Yeah, no,
I would
absolutely.
say this on Arizona.
I agree with you.
I would say this on Arizona before we deep dive on today's game. If they get DeAndre Hopkins back, then they're a different team.
They would be.
Oh, absolutely.
And they also designated J.J. Watt to return, so that's also a possibility.
If you've looked at this morning's wire line, for a lot of the players who seem to be out for this week, it's a lot of star-studded players. And Dan and I had also talked about this in the beginning of the season. Yep. How much of this is real? How much of this is, we got to get these guys a rest. We're just going to say they were in close contact to give them a day off. You know, I look at the list today. It's almost 2 paragraphs long. You're telling me all of a sudden all these teams can afford all these players being out?
Look at the Bengals. And the Bengals are not going to play Joe Burrow today. Right. I don't believe Joe Mixon's playing today. And the Bengals,
he, I believe, is starting, but
I know they had put him on the COVID list. So I don't know if he came
I'll have to take a look.
All right. So, and they still have an outside shot at getting the 1 seed. It can't happen anymore because the Chiefs won, but
that's why I wonder if they're doing that because the Chiefs won. They're like,
right.
Well, they had announced Burrow wasn't playing early in the week.
Oh, gotcha.
Like Burrow said during a press conference, "Yeah, I'm not playing."
The big teams that really have to play: San Francisco and New Orleans and Indianapolis. You want to play safe
and the Chargers.
And the Chargers, right?
Chargers, Raiders, Sunday night, winner take all. And
they can't get better than that.
Right. That's the game of the week.
Definitely.
Right. So let's dive into the NFC portion of today because they did cover the AFC portion. Maybe we'll pick the Raiders Chargers game at the end to see what happens. Okay. But let's go to the NFC. We talked about some of the games. Let's start with that big one in the NFC West, 49ers, Rams. Rams win, they win the NFC West. The 49ers win, they're in the playoffs. The 49ers have owned the Rams in recent years. Patch, I'll come to you. I feel like this is a must-win game for the Los Angeles Rams of St. Louis, not just because it could win the division, but just to get confidence against a Niners team who's owned them in the past.
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger win for the Rams because they can play spoiler, get rid of the Niners, and we don't have to worry about the 49ers. They don't have to worry about the 49ers, and the rest of the NFC can take a sigh of relief because the Niners are red hot. Oh, they're out now. We don't have to worry about them. Now we can focus on the other teams that are in the playoffs. But on the flip side, it's a psychological thing because the Niners know they can destroy the Rams. And then that can be a big blow for the 49ers come playoff time. Not the Rams, I mean. Sorry. Thinking too fast. It'd be I can't think. Definitely be a big blow to the Rams because now it's like, oh my God, what comes playoff time if we face this team again? They're going to get us again. So it's definitely a bigger win for the Rams if they can pull off the win today against the 49ers, because then the confidence booster is there for the Rams and come playoff time.
The Niners will be looking for their 6th consecutive win over the Rams.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Noah.
Well, Patchy, I'm going to actually counteract your point. I think it's a bigger blow if the Niners can beat the Rams again. Because let's say it's same as week, what was it, 8 or 9, whatever they played, and the Niners just absolutely smoked the Rams. not only does that destroy the Rams' confidence going into the playoffs, but that Niner team, as hot as they are, they're going to be.
They'll win a round of the playoffs. There's
What's
no
that?
doubt in my mind.
What's that?
They'll win a round in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I would say if the Niners can destroy the Rams today, like they did the first time, the Niners are the most dangerous team heading into the playoffs.
And that matchup was week 10. That first
10,
matchup.
Okay. But I would argue that. I would argue that the Niners would be the most dangerous team in the playoffs because I think they can go into any stadium and win. You go to San Francisco, they can beat you there. They come on the road, they can beat you there. They got off to a rocky start, but they've come roaring back and showing the team that, hell, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year. I predicted a Chiefs-Niners Super Bowl rematch. And the way the Niners are playing, I would not be shocked if we saw the 49ers back in the Super Bowl the way they're playing. I think they 100% just destroy the Rams today.
And they have not said who's starting, but I read last night that Garoppolo has a good chance to start today.
Yeah, that's the plan is to start him despite his thumb in his throwing hand. And I know they're I mean, ultimately, San Francisco has to win. Like it's a bigger game for them. The Rams, they don't have to. It'd be nice for spoiler reasons, but their focus is on the big picture, and that big picture is a championship. And I just feel like taking a risk and throwing out your players there it's just too much if you really want the big picture. That's just me.
Mark, I want to come to you on this because we've talked a lot about the Niners and we've talked a lot about them as a whole. Let's go to the Rams for a second. Matthew Stafford hasn't been great the past couple of weeks. A lot of turnovers, a lot of interceptions. They do get Cam Akers back today, which is astonishing. 5 months after tearing his Achilles, he comes back. He will play some today. But this team's going to live and die with Matthew Stafford at quarterback.
Right.
So do you think they have to what do the Rams need to do to go on that run everyone thinks they can go on?
Well, I'm sorry to say to our good friend Zach Haynes is that I think the Rams are in more trouble than they want to admit. Odell Beckham is not the answer here. Cam Akers coming back 5 months after tearing your Achilles. I'm sorry. I don't care how good anybody is. That is a year-long recovery. This guy could really, really injure himself. I know you have Darrell Henderson who's on, is on the IR. You have Sony Michel who's been underperforming and he's had some good weeks. They're gonna live or die by Matthew Stafford. Yes, you're in the playoffs. Rest who you need to rest right now. It's really not going to affect your standings. But if the Rams want to have to go on this run that's going to propel them to the, they have to obliterate today. They have to go up and win by 7-8 touchdowns. Otherwise, I don't believe they can be what they are. Cooper Kupp is exhausted. I'm sorry. Hats off to him. Hats off to the year he's had. You don't get a better year than that.
I mean, he's 130 or 136 yards, I believe, from breaking the record for most yards.
Yeah, I mean, do you allow him to go for it? Or do you want to take a chance for a risk for a great injury? It's 6.5, 1 dozen of another there.
I have a hard time doing it. You're already without Robert Woods.
I mean, could you imagine? Look, not to say
I loved Kupp's comment. I don't know if it was last week or this week when he said it wouldn't be breaking the record because I played one more game.
And that was a fair comment.
So he doesn't care about the record.
Well, I think a lot of players don't care about records like this because they would much rather have a Super Bowl title than have a record.
No, but I just mean that's a team mentality guy. Cooper Kupp. And Patchy wouldn't trade me him in a dynasty league. That's a whole nother conversation. But this is a big game. Both teams win and in for the Niners, the Rams when they win the NFC West. The other NFC West showdown has the Cardinals and the Seahawks. The Cardinals are in the playoffs, but again, if they win and the Rams lose, they win the NFC West. The Seahawks will not make the playoffs for the first time. I think it's about 7 or 8 years.
I think it's since Russell Wilson's rookie year in 2012.
So there you go. It's the first time Russell Wilson's going to have a losing season. Same with Pete Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of feels like an end of an era game for Seattle.
Yep.
The last game of the Pete Carroll era, the last game possibly of the Russell Wilson era.
Both of them need to go.
Yeah.
And we've been discussing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Though I've read that they're not going to get rid of Wilson though. I feel like they're going to keep him.
I think if there is a team out there that blows their doors off, they'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If you're a team in need of a quarterback, like definitely entertain some offers. Like you got nothing to lose. They either get rid of them or they don't.
Right.
But I just don't know what the Seahawks want to do. I don't know about Pete Carroll. I think I love him, and I would rather him be the coach. But I feel like they're also going to move on from him.
Yeah,
and
that's unfortunate.
It's sad because he's such a good coach. He's done so much for Seattle.
Yeah.
The thing with Carroll though is I don't see him being a rebuild kind of guy. Yeah. I don't see him being there for the long haul and be like, okay, I'm going to rebuild this team from the ground up. I just don't see him doing that. And I think that's where you have to go if you're Seattle right now. Yeah. And let's say, and like Mike said, let's say a team like, the Browns or, like what they did that year, they come along with 3 first-round picks and offer you 3 first-rounders for Russell Wilson. You can't pass that up.
No. And that's where I see the Giants being the big team to come in and do anything. I think I'm sure they'll throw Danny Dimes in any conversation to get rid of him. But the Giants are in a unique situation here, and they have the picks to sway a team like Seattle in bringing Russell Wilson to New York. So I would watch that because I think you put Russell Wilson in New York with Tooney, with Shepard, and with Slayton and Barkley. It's a scary little offense.
I'll say this: I wouldn't rule Denver out.
No.
I know they don't have but if you go Teddy Bridgewater, this year's first, next year's first, and maybe throwing a 2 or a 3, Seattle needs to recoup picks. I don't want to say because you brought up I don't know if this is a rebuild because you still have Lockett and Metcalf who are really good. Chris Carson, when he's healthy, is a good enough running back.
Right.
The offensive line, which has been an issue for the past, I don't know how many years, still stinks. And the defense isn't as good as it used to be. And they spent 2 first-rounders on Jamal Adams, and then they paid him a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Money that he
and then Adam and I talk about this all the time. They draft so weird.
Mm-hmm.
They go so off the board with things. It's I don't know if it's a rebuild or it's a retool on the fly in Seattle, but something's gotta change. And it's not just the weather or their Starbucks order.
Yeah, I know. Definitely go rebuild. Would you rebuild with the new front office? That's another thing.
Speaking of front office, I would throw Carolina into this mix. Remember, most of that front office comes from Seattle. So, Darnold and a couple of firsts. You get 1 year of Darnold to prove it.
Prove a deal for Darnold.
Prove a deal
Seattle.
for Darnold.
That's actually not a bad idea. I mean, Seattle could use him while he's still pretty young.
Carolina, if you get Russell Wilson, all of a sudden you get the quarterback you probably desired in that offense with Mark. You talked about the Giants, but You get Russell Wilson, McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson,
And don't forget about Terrence Marshall as well.
Terrence Marshall. I think about argument's sake here, because I'm going to play. The Saints need a quarterback. They're going to be in the market for a quarterback.
He's a good market.
Noah can attest. I've been telling the Atlanta Falcons for the past 3 years to blow it up and trade Matt Ryan. And argument's sake, if the Bucks were to repeat and Tom Brady says, I'm out, peace, I'm done, all of a sudden Carolina's like, this is our opportunity with Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of scenarios and a lot of if and ands, but we're not going to be able to really pinpoint where anybody's going until
this
Super
is all
Bowl
speculation and fun.
Right.
If you don't have fun listening to this, then I can't help you.
I mean, when the Green Bay Packers go one and done, when they lose,
if you don't think this is fun, go have a conversation with Nathan Moser. I mean, that's all I'm going to say.
I'm just trying to make sure our good president Lawrence Patchman-Lang knows we are including him in this Sunday broadcast.
He's sitting there trying to look pretty through all of this. All right.
Mark, just remember, it's been how long since the Cowboys won a Super Bowl?
All right, I'm moving on. I'm
Too
moving
long.
on. Children behave. I'm moving on.
Yes.
I will overrule this.
So we talked about the 49ers, how they can. The New Orleans Saints could get in with a win and a Niners loss. They traveled to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Listen, the Saints can win this game, and it's still if the Saints get in, awesome. But I don't think they're a major threat. Not
they're also
Taysom
a
Hill
one
as
and
their
done
quarterback.
I don't even think they win today's game. I think Atlanta plays spoilers.
I agree with Noah on this. I think Atlanta comes in and just blows up the score, and Matt Ryan says, "That's it, I'm done."
I wonder, and look, not that the Saints won't go after a playoff spot, but what if a better idea is to tank this, so that because they know they're going to get their ass whooped in the playoffs, tank this and just regroup for next year, because it's been a tough year for New Orleans. Injuries, tough losses, it's been a rough year for New Orleans. And I think they could use that offseason, that long offseason, to regroup, figure out their quarterback situation, because God knows they are going to be in one. And just get the whole team situated. Because even though a playoff berth would be nice, at the end of the day, I would rather miss the playoffs knowing that you're going to be a 7 seed. What are we doing here in New Orleans?
And the only team they would want to play, let's be realistic. The only team they would want to play in the playoffs are the Bucks.
Yeah,
that is the only team they would want to play.
They're not going anywhere. The only playmaker they have on offense is Kamara. Okay,
and he's been
amazing.
He's been bad, but they ran him into the ground early.
Right. You have, Callaway's been okay. You don't have a legitimate quarterback. Your line is tired. Your defense has kept you in games, but the defense is not going to be able to do that against a lot of these high-powered offenses that week in and week out.
Yeah.
I think Sean Payton's done a really good job to get them to 8 wins with what they've had to suffer. The Jameis Winston injury. Michael Thomas hasn't played all year. They're going to have to get that situation figured out too this offseason. They've got some question marks, and it's not just what beads do people throw during Mardi Gras.
Fair enough.
They're going to have to figure some things out, and I just wonder about where they think they are compared to what we see. I think more importantly, I do think they win this game. I don't know if it matters because I do think the Niners win also, but I think the Saints win. They find a way. because that's what they do. They found a way all year.
Yeah, and they're gonna try to go. And
You go for the win.
And I respect that. You want to obviously players want to close out the season. I just feel it's a better scenario for them long term to just tank it.
Yeah.
And just go in knowing that you're not have to worry about the playoffs. You can focus on getting the team ready, regrouping, figuring out a new plan, and you have a whole off season to do it. And they're going to have an off season, but the longer the better.
Patch, where are you on the Saints?
It's very interesting because if they do make the playoffs, I'm in agreement with some of you, they're definitely a one and done team. But I hope them for the best because they need a new quarterback. They need to find someone out on the market in the offseason to try to bring the prosperity back to the Saints. So I'm in the middle with this. I want them in the playoffs because, hey, I like watching the Saints in the playoffs. But then again, I kind of don't want them in the playoffs so that way they could start the rebuild.
All right. The other NFC South matchup sees the Panthers and the Bucks, and talk about the Panthers in a little bit. Major disappointment on the season, at least for me. But the Bucks, we talked a lot about the AB stuff. They don't have Chris Godwin either, tore his ACL. So this offense is gonna look different than it did. Not even just last year, but week 1, 2, 3 earlier this year. It's going to be totally different. So it's on Rob Gronkowski and Leonard Fournette to have similar playoffs to what they had last year if the Bucks are going to go on a run to repeat.
Yeah, it all rests on, I think, really Fournette. The running game has to get going because Brady, as great as Brady is, he's not going to have anybody around him. Godwin's gone. Brown's gone. They don't have any more. They don't have anybody left as far as wide receivers are concerned. Who's their number one? Still have Evans, but
you're going to rely on Cyril Grayson, who caught the winning touchdown against the Jets to catch the winning touchdown in the NFC title.
And the problem with as great as Evans is,
he's banged up too. He's got a hamstring.
Not only banged up, but what happens when they get into the playoffs? Every team's just going to double team Evans.
Right. Well, you're going to have Dare Gronk to beat you at this point.
Yeah, basically. That's basically how it's going to have to go.
And not to take anything away from Rob Gronkowski. I mean, the man might not be a scholar by any means, but the guy can play football. And his career is almost over, and he can still ball.
Yeah, his latest endeavor is to try to get USA insurance for some reason.
Okay, that commercial bothers me, and I'm going to go on a little half-second rant. Does anybody realize that this commercial is Rob Gronkowski trying to steal from the federal government, or is it just me?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, Art. Yeah. It's so stupid. I don't get it.
I'm just saying. What is the point of this commercial?
It's Rob thinking he's special, and it's just like, okay.
Getting back to reality.
Isn't there one where he does say, "Well, I'm special"?
Yeah, well, I'm special, and the woman's like, "Okay, but you're not military. That's the whole point." I want to no, I just want to know why USA thought this was a good commercial idea. I just don't get it.
I don't know. Ask them.
Okay, I want to.
Also, ask Progressive why they think the Baker Mayfield commercials are still good.
The first one was funny. The first one was funny. Right. The rest of them are just stupid. Right. Getting back to the Bucks game, what it all is going to come down to is I do not think the Bucks should play Brady. They should not play Evans. Rest everybody and go into the playoffs healthy. That's where I would.
And they can either be the 2 or the 3, right?
Correct.
They can't fall to 4.
They can't go lower than 3. No.
There's no great loss.
Which I don't
Tom
understand.
Brady's playing next week, but he'll play at home instead of being on the road like they were last year.
Exactly.
So. Who they play? We don't know because you're going to have to watch the games to find out who they play. Before we dive in on the 5, which we have a couple of special, I did a couple of special questions for that. So we saw one during this episode of Sunday Sideline Report, Vic Fangio being fired. We've also heard rumors, Matt Nagy, Mike Zimmer. I'm going to throw one other out at you guys to see about vacancies. The Raiders and Jaguars already vacant. We'll see who takes those spots. Joe Judge got to go.
Yes.
I think that's the only other one I can firmly believe in saying.
Yeah.
Right now,
believe
yes.
Firmly believe that he's getting fired. Yeah, that's the only other one I can really think of.
Now, if he's not fired, Mark, you could just mock Bill all SIP. I don't care.
They don't fire Joe Judge. Bill's gonna take care of embarrassing himself. Don't worry about it.
If that doesn't happen, there will be an exclusive watch party on Bill to make sure he's okay.
Yeah. But
By
but
exclusive watch party, you mean population 0, right?
And by that I mean there's just going to be a lone camera in his bedroom of him just pacing around and maybe sending his fist through the wall.
We'll get him a hamster wheel to run on and a water bottle. He'll be okay.
Yep, he'll be good to go.
Joe Judge.
Poor hamster wheels everywhere.
Oh my.
All right.
Joe Judge, he's such a clown, man. I mean, the more I keep watching him all season, the more I lose confidence in him, as many Giants fans have. So I think he should. I don't think they are going to, and that's a shame. But here's the thing with the Giants, though, it's not just the coach; it's personnel too. The talent,
And it's the people who make those decisions.
yeah, and we know Gettleman's going to go for sure. So that on that front, that's also going to change. It has to change because you can change the coach, but if you don't change the team, then what are we changing really?
Not really changing much.
Because that, folks, is one giant mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am so happy that the Jets can finally stick it to the Giants and they can be not as dysfunctional as the Giants are. The Jets are no longer the most dysfunctional team in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean,
And that is a win.
I think the Giants are the worst run organization in the NFL right now.
With the Jets being right on this at number 2.
Number 2, but we are
No,
we are
number 2
far
is probably the Jags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark, the Jaguars like
you
that
know what?
word.
Yeah, I think the Jets are number
The Jets
5.
might even be 4 because you got Houston also. Who's
All right, they're in the
dysfunctional.
top 5. Okay.
Top 5.
Yeah.
And they're a far 5. They're not even a close 5. They're
They're
far
a far 5.
because they give the team hope. Finally, there's some hope with the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
But we
Yeah,
want to talk about the Jets.
Dan, I love you, and I love hope. I love the word. I've been a Knicks fan and a Mets fan. The word hope doesn't exist anymore.
With the Knicks.
The Mets get good, and all of a sudden there's a baseball lockout.
Conspiracy
You
theory.
know. Bite me, Rob Manfred. All right. So we alluded to this before because we talked about Hub. I can't even say his name. We talked about the voting for awards. So we're going to do our regular season awards. We're going to keep it simple. MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Let's start with MVP. Patch, I'll come to you.
Well, it could be. Yeah, I guess you're gonna have to call it bias, but Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going to call.
It's yeah.
Oh.
It's biased. It's
It's
gonna be
biased.
biased. It's gonna be Aaron Rodgers. If not, it's Jonathan Taylor.
That's mine. It's Jonathan Taylor. Guy has carried the Colts for the entire year, and he's put together one of the best running back seasons we've ever seen. And come on, guys, like, you know, the quarterbacks have played great, but this kid's just unreal.
18
Like-
TDs, 2 receiving TDs, almost 1,800 yards rushing.
Like, give it to Taylor. Give it to
I am-
Taylor, please.
I am with Noah on this. I have Jonathan Taylor as the MVP.
For the amount of times Jonathan Taylor, how strong he is, how his ability to make even the big, strong linebackers miss, and just by his speed and everything, like all that translating to Colts wins, definitely MVP. I don't know how it can't be.
Yeah.
I agree. It should be Jonathan Taylor. The only other guy I'm going to make an argument for, and yeah, there's a Rodgers argument. I'll argue for Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Burrow deserves mention.
Burrow deserves
Yeah,
consideration
he does.
because the
His name
Bengals,
is out there, yes.
the Bengals are the biggest surprise in the NFL.
I think the Bengals recognition comes in another award.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to give Joe Burrow some love. He'll also win comeback player of the year. No offense to Dak.
No.
Oh, I would give it to Burrow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. So say Taylor Patchy says Aaron Rodgers. That's not because he's biased or
I'm
anything.
not being I will say Aaron Rodgers. If he doesn't win it, it goes to Jonathan Taylor.
Also, Cooper Kupp deserves consideration, but
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
he'll win Offensive Player of the Year. But that's
I think that one's a wash. I think it's
yeah.
Cooper Kupp
It's
Offensive
gotta
Player of the Year.
it's gotta be.
It's got to be Kupp or Debo Samuel. I think those are
I
the
think
only.
the fight
yeah.
comes down to the two of them, but it goes to Cup on
Yeah,
just
you gotta-
these.
Sometimes you just got to
statistics.
fill the cup up.
Exactly.
Oh man! All right.
But
Coach
that's
of
a
the year.
topic for another time.
Coach of the year is easy to me. Zach Taylor.
Zach
hands
Taylor.
down.
Zach Taylor.
It's 100% Zach Taylor. For how little people thought of the Bengals this year to now, they've won the North. They're gonna be a 2 or 3 seed in the AFC. Come on, it's Zach Taylor. It's easy for me.
Zach Taylor.
And we're going to argue against.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
Pat-
the only argument I'll give is for Frank Reich because
I love Frank Reich, so I'm
Colts
okay with that.
They were down pretty bad early on in the season. The fact that he has rallied his troops to get the Colts into the playoff spot that they're in now, and literally they just need a win and they can ride in. That's an impressive season. And the fact that he's getting the most out of Carson, and this is no surprise. We've seen Frank Reich get a lot out of Carson Wentz throughout their coaching and player relationship. But the fact that he's getting a lot out of him and all of his other players to get them into the playoff spot, I'll argue that for Frank Reich. That's the only thing. But other than that, Zach Taylor, 100%.
If you're not giving it to Taylor, Frank Reich's the only other guy I would consider.
In agreement.
All right. All right. Last one we're going to do because I'm not going to do a lot of the others. Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, if TJ Watt breaks the sack record, it's TJ Watt.
Yeah, if he breaks the record, it's TJ.
I still think it's TJ Watt, but
If he breaks the record, it's TJ. If not, it's Micah.
Yeah, I would go Micah.
listen, the only other argument is Aaron Donald, and that's just because he's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
He is
Micah,
arguably the best defensive player in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, Micah Parsons got off defensive rookie of the year locked up like easy.
Yeah.
There is an argument for defensive player of the year because he has really rejuvenated the Cowboys defense, and they really ride on him. And if he plays well, that Cowboys defense gets ridiculous.
I wonder this on Parsons, and I'm going to combine it with another thought, because I wonder if Trayvon Diggs having such a good year takes a little bit away and they have to split votes.
Well,
Kinda
yeah.
like
Trayvon
Marcus
Diggs had
Guys
an amazing
in the
year.
MVP race, right, in baseball. What?
Look, Trayvon Diggs had a great year. Let's not take it away from Trayvon. But
Right.
let's also, you got to look at the other side of the stats, is how much he also let up on the year.
Oh, I'm
And
not
he-
arguing.
He
I'm
gave
not
up a
arguing that.
lot
I'm
of
just saying
yards and a
people
lot of
will vote.
touchdowns.
I mean,
for a
he
guy.
didn't give up that many yards to what you think. I mean, he gave up, what was it? I think it was he gave up 913 yards. Jalen Ramsey, the year he won Defensive Player of the Year, gave up 857. It's like,
Well, you're not wrong. I'm just saying you have to consider other factors.
I just wish they would break it into 2 separate awards, one for pass rushers, one for backs.
yeah.
Because last year, Xavier Howard was robbed of Defensive Player of the Year because Aaron Donald's a freak of nature.
Well, and they have to stop with MVP and just say best quarterback, best running back, best receiver.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that
because, like we said, it's more like we say it. We all said Jonathan Taylor deserves MVP, but let's face it, it's going to go to Aaron Rodgers because they just give it to the best quarterback.
Right, and that's where the shame.
And no, that's no offense to Aaron Rodgers. It's just that's how it is.
I wonder this because the hub guy makes a point, and I just wonder this. I wonder if people wouldn't give it to him regarding his vaccination status.
Who knows?
And they're just not saying that.
That you're gonna
Patchy, go ahead.
You're to
I'm
bite the
opening
bullet.
up a can of worms.
I'm gonna open a can. I'm gonna fully open the can of worms after shaking it really well and let it explode everywhere. You're gonna not vote for somebody because of a status that they say, oh, I'm immunized, yada yada. That's to me, that's really stupid. That's just like saying,
I'm not arguing that. I'm just wondering that.
If voters are doing that, that's stupid. Because if this was 3 years ago, Aaron Rodgers doing this, it'd be, oh, Aaron Rodgers front runner MVP, all that bull crap. But now that, we're in a new world where people's families, friendships, places they work are getting ruined because of their decision to whether or not get a shot. I'm just saying that's just stupid. If voters are doing that, they deserve to lose their vote. If they're doing that, if they're not voting for someone because of their status or not to get vaccinated, that should be thrown out the window. We're looking at the player's ability and what they do for their team.
Excuse me. You are not wrong. Okay. On to the 5. So we've covered all the NFC. So I've stuck to mainly NFC topics here for the 5. Let's start with this. The 5 most disappointing players or teams in the NFC, Mark.
Oh, we're going to start off with the most disappointing team in the NFC. And that's the New York Football Giants. They have been an atrocity. You go from Daniel Dimes to Mike Leonard now to we're all going to be listening to Bill Fromm at the mouth tomorrow.
You mean Jake Fromm State Farm?
Yes, Jake Fromm State Farm.
Mike Lennon.
So there's that. Another disappointment comes from the New York Football Giants. Saquon Barkley. I was really hoping for a big year from him. He got injured again, which is really not his fault, but he's never going to be the player he was on that team. It's a hodgepodge of things. I'm going to throw out, unfortunately, DeAndre Hopkins, injured all year, was not able to perform at the levels that we were hoping. Taking one off the Cowboys, Jalen Smith had a horrible year and ended up being traded. Well, not traded, released, and then released again. That's to show you how far he fell. That's me for my disappointments.
No.
All right. Top 5 disappointments this year. I'm going to go number 1. I'm going to go the Minnesota Vikings. When you've got Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, how are you 7-9 and you're losing to the Lions? You're losing to these terrible teams, and you're not getting any momentum throughout the year. I know your defense is not the greatest, but you still have a couple playmakers on that side of the ball. And that's why I think number 2 for me is Mike Zimmer. The guy, you should be doing better than this. And that's why I think he deserves to be probably fired at the end of the season. He's not performing well enough with this talented group of people. Number 3, I'm going to go Carolina. expected way more from them, Mike. Like I think you said earlier, expected way more from Carolina. I expected the Darnold thing to work better than it had. It looked like it had a lot of promise. It looked like, they were 3-0 and Darnold wasn't lighting up the scoreboard, but he was just doing enough. He was just being accurate. He was not turning the ball over. And then it all just went downhill. They go to Dallas. They get absolutely destroyed. And then, like I said, it just all went downhill from there. Darnold fell off a cliff. They tried to bring back Cam Newton. Then that didn't work. Now they're going back to Darnold, and he's not great, but he's not horrible, I guess. So, yeah, Carolina should expected a lot more from you. I think Matt Rule deserves better. I think he deserves better than have this terrible quarterback carousel coming through. He deserves to have a guy. Why? Again, I keep looking at this. I think our friend Adam on Wishbone says this too. Why did you get rid of Bridgewater? What was the point? Bridgewater would have been fine for the Carolina Panthers. They would have won some games with him. Mm-hmm. But nope, they had to try to go for the Darnold thing, and it just didn't work. Number 4. Let me see. I'm trying to think of a player that didn't really do much this year. Evan Ingram for the Giants. Where have you been, dude? Where is this guy gone? This guy was supposed to be one of the best tight end prospects coming out of college, and he's done nothing. Done absolutely nothing in his career with the Giants. And maybe that's not all his fault. I know the Giants are a complete mess, but I think he deserves to be traded somewhere and try to just make it work.
He's a free agent after the year.
Oh, he is? Okay, well, he needs to go to a different team, and he really needs to bounce back and try to salvage whatever he has left of his career. And finally, let's see. I know he was injured for a little bit, and I know that Chicago's not the best place right now. But I expected more out of David Montgomery.
That's because Matt Nagy doesn't know how to use him.
And I get that, but he should have been more than what he was this year. When he was in, he still wasn't even that explosive in what we expected. We expected him to be, one of the top running backs in the league, or at least get to that position, and he really hasn't reached that potential right now. And hopefully if Nagy's out and they really work around Fields and him and get a good offense around him, then maybe he can break out. But as far as right now, I haven't seen much from him.
All right. Patch.
We'll start with the New York Giants. Giants have been a disappointment since the boat pick happened. That boat pick was a curse. I think it's been 4 years since that boat pick was taken, where it was everyone on. Yep, been 4 years since they've been on the boat. They took the photo, everyone's on with their shirts off, and then implosion happened. Giants are a disappointment right now, and it's a shame because the New York Giants were always in contention every year when Eli was there. Eli left too, and now it's just been an absolute dumpster fire. Looking at another team, I would be agreeing to the Carolina Panthers. They're playing hot potato with quarterback. If they start with Darnold, they get Newton, then Darnold's back. It's like, make up your mind. You know what? Cam Newton's not the answer in Carolina. Get rid of Cam Newton, throw him out. Cam Newton's not what he used to be either since the MVP season. He had the MVP season, and it was downhill from there. If we're looking at another team, I would say the Vikings as well. The Vikings were going to be the biggest threat to the Packers in the North if Rodgers was to stay. If Rodgers didn't stay, Minnesota should have won the division this year. But they know Aaron Rodgers decided to stay, and then it was like, all right, Minnesota's still going to be contention for the North, but Minnesota just had a lackluster season. It's kind of disappointing because it's always great watching Green Bay and Minnesota duke it out, because the Bears really aren't doing anything at this moment, and we can have a whole show dedicated to the Lions and what's wrong with them.
And we get attacked by Lions.
Seattle was a disappointment this year. Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are always they're always in contention every year for a Super Bowl run. What happened this year? Like it's like the wind just went out and the 12th man disappeared in Seattle. Seattle was a disappointment this year to me because I like watching Seattle play, except when they play Green Bay, and that's another tangent I could get into a different day. You know it, Monday Night Football. That's all I got. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
All right. Dan, are you prepped for this?
Yes.
Okay.
At least for this part. No. my teams. I'm going with teams here. Because players are one thing, but teams are a bigger picture. I think the most disappointing team has definitely been the San Francisco 49ers. Only reason why I'm saying this, I expected a lot more out of San Francisco this year. You were talking about a team that needs to make big jumps to get themselves into, the contention for Super Bowls and all that stuff. This is a team that I expected to make a jump this season, and they have not. So I'm very disappointed in them. And a very close second is the Giants, by far. And the reason why is because, the Giants have always been this talk. You know how the Giants are. They're all talk. They like to talk up the product, like the sugar honey iced tea and all that stuff. In the NFL, they're the best. But in the end of the day, they're a comical franchise. They're incredibly messy. And ultimately, they're not putting out anything good for the fans to watch. And it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the city of New York. It's an embarrassment to, Giants fans across the country. And, it's one of the things that, it's just a shame a historic franchise has to be so dysfunctional. I'm going to go with the Vikings for my third team, because the Vikings also have a good team that we know can make the playoffs if they win the big game. And for whatever reason, they just couldn't find a way to win big games.
Kirk Cousins.
And
your hatred of Kirk Cousins has got to stop.
No, sorry.
But you know what? For the money that he's getting and for what the Vikings are expecting him to be, it's actually not a bad point.
No, but I think if you're gonna post, I hate that we're complaining about a guy on the amount of money he makes when a guy like Garoppolo, who I don't think is as good, gets carried by his defense / running game to a Super Bowl, and we could say, "Oh, Jimmy G's pretty good."
Yeah, but at least he's making big plays, and at least the 49ers.
I think Cousins does too if he put a real offensive line.
Yeah, but what wins are translated by Kirk Cousins' play?
I think Kirk Cousins is a fine court. Let me tell you something, Dan. You live in D.C. now.
Yes.
I think if the Washington football team had paid Kirk Cousins the money he earned and deserved,
which they weren't going to,
because Dan Snyder doesn't even pay to have his stadium renovated from time to time.
Yeah,
just look at the railing.
That's a mess. That's a mess in itself too.
Oh God, that railing fall.
The Washington football team would be a playoff team.
Are you sure about that?
100%. You give Cousins those weapons of McLaurin, Samuel and healthy, Logan Thomas, Antonio Gibson.
But that's another thing. That's another thing we forgot to mention. I can't believe this Steve got through. The Washington football team's defense.
Hold on, I've got him down. So
the defense imploded this year for Washington.
Yeah.
I disagree.
I interrupted Dan, so I apologize. Dan, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I like spirited debates. The number 4 for me is the Carolina Panthers. And the reason for that is because, they're another team that said they were going to be much better with Darnold and the so-called weapons that Darnold could use. And Darnold has been incredibly disappointing, which is sad for me because I was really high on Darnold when he was drafted. not the Jets' problem anymore, but still very high on him. And the fact that it's him, and I'll argue that Matt Rule, even though Matt Rule is not the main problem in Carolina, that his coaching style also isn't helping either. So hopefully that will change. And then finally, I'm just throwing this one out there. I feel like, and it's not necessarily their fault, but the Saints, it's disappointing how none of them can stay in shape. And that's on coaching and strength and conditioning. The fact that you have players left and right getting hurt, that a team that should be in the playoffs is going to be out.
Good. All right, for me, I've got Darnold and the Panthers as a whole. Darn, his act is getting old, Sam Darnold. I mean, the turnovers don't stop. The weapons are good in Carolina, and I thought a change of scenery would work.
Yeah.
It didn't. Carolina as a whole, I think, is a. All right. We'll see you later, Dan. Tell Moser I said hi.
Okay.
Tell them go Pats. Even though I want the Bills to win.
No, I don't like any of those teams anyway. So I'm
At least root for the
Jets.
Bills, because hey, come on, who wants
I'm
the
cheering for the
Patriots?
Jets because I hate the Bills. Okay.
All right.
Jets.
All right. Peace, folks.
So Sam
Take care.
Darnold, turnovers. The Panthers as a whole are a massive disappointment. So much so that they're listening to offers on McCaffrey this off season, which I don't think, unless they're blown away, happens. But Carolina, for Kenny Galladay. Dude got $19 million and doesn't have a touchdown on the season. Now, most of that is due to the incompetence of what is the New York Giants offense, primarily Jason Garrett, who gave the offense the clap, and the inability of Daniel Jones, Mike Glennon, and so on and so forth. Three's the Giants as a whole. The other guys hit it on the head. I'm not going to bang that drum anymore. Two's the Vikings. And listen, you want to blame Kirk Cousins because Noah's a hater on Kirk Cousins, and that's fine. It's not all on Kirk Cousins. I blame Mike Zimmer. I actually also blame the front office because the line hasn't been as bad as it's been. Dalvin Cook's had a good year. Justin Jefferson's had a great year. I mean, if you look at his numbers, I still don't understand how Philly took Jalen Reagor over him, but that's a whole nother conversation. Once the Seahawks, I thought the Seahawks would compete for the Super Bowl. I thought they were really good. They just, it never clicked this year in Seattle for whatever reason. And don't be the Atlanta Falcons and just blow it up now. Just blow it up now, Seattle. Although I do enjoy the Space Needle. All right. The other thing I put for the 5 was 5 predictions for an off-season move by a non-playoff team. So I'll start this because if I live and die with my own thoughts. The Vikings trade Kirk Cousins. And I don't think this is Kirk Cousins' fault. I think this gets to be contract for contract, and it's Kirk Cousins for Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's a thought. I wonder if Pittsburgh enters the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes if they miss out on someone else. But I don't think Kirk Cousins is a Viking. The Chicago Bears will draft either Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson from Ohio State to pair them with Justin Fields, who they had in college. The Bears don't have a first-round pick. So you're going to be like, dude, those are 2 first-round picks. The Bears are going to trade Khalil Mack to get back into the first round to get Justin Fields a weapon. Just a hunch on Khalil Mack. The Carolina Panthers will be the team who trades for Russell Wilson. I wanted to write it down to be the Giants, but I was like, Carolina makes way more sense to me. 2, Atlanta. You knew I was coming for you, Atlanta. You knew it. The Falcons are going to sign Teddy Bridgewater this offseason. They're going to draft Sam Howell, and they're going to trade Matt Ryan. It's going to happen. Atlanta, at some point, you're going to listen to me, and you're going to trade Matt Ryan.
You're gonna hire me as your GM, and I'm gonna turn that franchise
I'm
around.
going to turn you into. I can't go. I don't want to say the Braves because, as a Met fan, it hurts to say the Braves. But
Yeah, that too.
yeah, go Freddie Freeman. Number one, the Washington football team trades for a quarterback. His name is Derek Carr.
Ooh, I like that one actually.
All right, those are five bold moves for the offseason. Mark.
Well, I don't share your sentiments on where Russell Wilson's going. Number 5, Russell Wilson will be going to the New York Giants as they will make a trade for him and bring him there. And he's going to win a Super Bowl within 2 years of being there. Number 4 on my list, Matt Ryan retires. He doesn't go and play on. He decides to pack it in now. Go out where he is. He had a good run. No harming going. Bye-bye. The Detroit Lions trade their pick, get a number 1 pick, and get that quarterback behind Jared Goff, and then trade Jared Goff. Gonna happen. That is my bold prediction. They're gonna trade Jared Goff for a bunch of picks. Number 2, and I hate the fact that I'm going to say this, because I've been a backer of Tyler Heineke. The Washington Redskins the Washington football team go out and get themselves a brand new quarterback. And last but not least, the Minnesota Vikings drop kick Kirk Cousins to the curb and go get a new quarterback.
Man, I'm trying to turn curb into Kirk, like KRKB, KIRKB.
Your enthusiasm.
It doesn't work. Patch.
Number 5, Seattle will part ways with Pete Carroll, and Russell Wilson will be on the move. Second part of this one, Pete Carroll will either be the head coach of the Jaguars or the Giants.
For Pete Carroll, I like that.
And Russell Wilson will be with Pete Carroll in New York.
Ooh, you think Wilson follows Pete Carroll?
Wilson will get traded, and then Pete Carroll will become the New York Giants head coach.
Interesting.
I'm going to take a shot out here with number 3, Baker will leave the Browns, not get the payday, but will join Mike Tolman in the Steelers.
They trade Baker to the Steelers?
Nope. Just that somehow Baker gets released.
Oh, you think they release him?
They release him. They're going to do another rebuild. The Browns go through another rebuild. Baker needs to go somewhere. Obviously, Cleveland might not be the answer for Baker. Baker's a great quarterback in the league. He can hold his own. I think he just doesn't fit well in Cleveland. Yes, it might break the Browns' heart, and I might get a lot of flack for it. But hey, it's going to happen. Matt Ryan finally retires, and Atlanta finally goes through a rebuild and finally finds somebody to take Matty Ice's spot.
Okay, so I before you go, I want to mention this is from Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. After the Fangio firing, Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, Patriots linebackers coach Gerard Mayo, and Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett are names to watch for the Denver Broncos job.
And Noah, just to calm your blood pressure a little bit, Dan Quinn has already said he wants to stay in Dallas, so we don't.
Yeah, he declined the Jags.
He declined the Jags job, but Denver's a more interesting option.
Yeah, but he wants to stay in Dallas. He wants to stay in Dallas, he said.
I'm not arguing. I'm just reading what the report said.
I know.
And listen, I would want to stay in Dallas too, because once Mike McCarthy gets canned, it's Dan Quinn's job.
Exactly.
No, go
McCarthy
ahead.
brings them a
Okay.
Super Bowl.
Number 5, I'm gonna agree with everybody. I think Russell Wilson's gone. I think he's on the move. I would say the Saints. I think they're the one that are gonna swing for the fences and go for him because they can win now. And they need a weapon like Russell Wilson to get in there and get that offense going. Number 4, I think Derek Carr is on the move from Oakland. I think he replaces Big Ben in Pittsburgh. I think he fits perfectly in with that system. He fits the kind of he's the tough, Midwestern kind of guy, he can go to Pittsburgh, be their quarterback, be their replacement for Big Ben. I think he fits the mold of Pittsburgh pretty well. So I think Derek Carr goes to Pittsburgh. Matt Ryan, I don't know. I say Matt Ryan retires. I agree. I think he just says, I'm done. I can't really do much more in this league. I'm going to go big on number 2. I think the Bills, depending on what they do in the playoffs, they go big game hunting for a running back. And I have 2 names that I think could get really interesting. Zeke or Christian McCaffrey. I think the Bills look at either of those 2 and throw everything at them to try to get one of those 2. Because think about it. Think about Allen, Diggs, Sanders, McCaffrey now. That offense can be
McCaffrey. I mean, McCaffrey might be the only move. There's no way they're going to pay for Zeke's contract.
You never know if they get desperate.
Would.
I think we saw they are just a running back away from being a legit Super Bowl contender. So maybe they throw everything at the wall and be like, screw it, we got to get a big guy and go get Zeke. And Dallas, I think, would more than happy get rid of that contract.
Dallas would have to eat something.
Yeah, and I think Dallas would eat something, but I think. And number 1, I think Aaron Rodgers is on the move, and I think he goes to Denver. I think he sees what Denver has right now. I think the Rodgers relationship with the Packers has been utterly destroyed. I don't think they gave him they reworked the contract, so basically it was basically best of both worlds. Give us one more year, Aaron, and we'll let you go after. I don't see why he would go back on that and change his mind. To me, that seemed like a very deliberate thing, and that I want one, like, you either let me out of my contract or I'm gone this year. And basically the Packers went, okay, well, give us one more year and we'll restructure the contract so you're done after that. To go back on that now, I don't see that happening. I see him going to Denver.
Interesting. Yeah. So those are bold predictions for the off season. So before we go, here's how we'll go. I'll talk clinching scenarios in the AFC, and then we'll talk about maybe just give picks on who gets in, who doesn't. So here are the clinching scenarios in the AFC. The Baltimore Ravens can get into the playoffs with a win against the Steelers, plus the Chargers lose, plus the Colts lose, plus the Dolphins lose or tie. That'll be with Tyler Huntley at quarterback, not Lamar Jackson. The Bills win the AFC East with a win or a Patriots loss. The Bengals can clinch the 1 seed in the AFC with a win, plus a Titans loss, plus a Chiefs loss, which did not happen, plus a Patriots or Bills loss. So the Bengals cannot get to 1. The Colts beat the Jaguars. You're in the playoffs. I'm going to keep it simple. There are other ways, but I'm keeping it simple. The Chiefs can clinch the 1 seed with a Titans loss after their win. The Chargers and Raiders, basically, winner of that game is in the playoffs. The Patriots win the AFC East with a win and a Bills loss. They could clinch the 1 seed with a win, a Bills loss. Actually, they can't because the Chiefs won, so the Patriots cannot get to the 1. The Steelers somehow could get to the 1 seed, get to the playoffs, not the 1 seed, with a win against Baltimore, a Colts loss, a Charger, and the Charger-Raider game does not end in a tie. So for the Steelers, they need a win, the Colts to lose, and Chargers-Raiders has to have a winner. And the Tennessee Titans clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC with a victory of Houston. The NFC, we told you, the 49ers win, they're in. If the Saints win and the 49ers lose, the Saints are in. And the NFC West will be decided. Rams win, they're the division champs. Cardinals win and the Rams lose. The Cardinals win the NFC West. Gentlemen, who's in? Who's in? I think we're all in agreement the Colts are in.
I think the Colts are in. They're going to beat the Jaguars finally for the first time in 8 years.
They have not won in Jacksonville in 8 years.
Yeah, they're going to blow it up too.
Yeah, they're going to get in. I picked the Raiders to win tonight. I think the Raiders get in. I don't like.
Oh, Noah and I are at difference.
I don't like what the Chargers have been doing this year. I think honestly, if we had done AFC, I would have put the Chargers a massive disappointment this year.
I like the Chargers.
I like the Chargers too. I think the Chargers get in.
Yeah,
I think Herbert has to show last year wasn't a fluke. I think Herbert really. I mean, his numbers this year have already shown that. But bringing him into the playoffs is a different stature.
Right. So I think the Raiders get in. And then I think I think that would be it, right? I think everyone else is accounted for.
Pretty much.
The AFC East just has to be decided, but the Bills and Patriots are both in.
Bills are gonna win. They're gonna beat Dolphins?
Nope, the Bills play the Jets.
Okay, Bills play the Jets. They're gonna win. They're gonna be fine.
The Bills are 16.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the Titans easily get the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you right now, as far as other than the 49ers, the Titans will be the most dangerous team in the playoffs. They're going to get that bye week. They're going to get Julio Jones back. They're going to get Derrick Henry back. That team can run the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the 1 seed, I mean, it's not saying they're the most dangerous team, but I think the most dangerous team if they get in the Colts.
Yeah, I
think the Colts are the most dangerous if they get
the AFC playoffs are going to be.
AFC is going to be. Well, I think both sets because you don't know who's going to get in. But I'm with you. I like the Raiders tonight. I think something about that first home game after the John Madden death. Something just says to me the Raiders win. Who gets in the NFC? Saints or Niners?
Niners.
So everyone's in agreement here. For who gets in, who goes home, you can listen to the podcasts. SIP, I think you guys are recording tomorrow night.
We will be recording tomorrow night, and we'll
Wishbone, we're going to record later this week. We'll preview all the wild card games, talk about coaches fired, other stuff. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. For Mark Oldops, Guy Halper, Noah Tremblay, Lawrence Patchman Langan, Danny Boy, Reginald, Dan Rhines, I'm Mike Rifkin. You've been listening to SIN Sunday Sideline Report. Enjoy the last week of football, everyone. Get ready for the playoffs, and namaste.
Namaste.
Mark, you're the host. You have to click on the YouTube thing.
Sorry, people, but we're still working out the kinks here.
It's all Moser's fault. He's too busy. I can't.